What's on guys, we're back with a brand new video. In today's video, we'll be previewing the AFL trade period. It officially starts tomorrow. I'm not sure what time, but sometime tomorrow is when the free agency period starts, and then on Monday is when the trade period starts. So we'll be previewing what deals will happen pretty early on in the trade period and possible trades to about 50-50, and players that are still looking for new homes. Now, there's still going to be some trades that aren't mentioned in this video that haven't even been rumoured yet that could still happen. That all happened with the Jaden Stevenson thing. That only started to actually catch fire early on in the actual trade period starting, and then it ended up getting done. And kind of like the Adam Treloar situation, all that stuff kind of happened pretty much like midway to start of the trade period. So it'll be interesting to see what transpires over the next week. But if you guys want to catch up with me and talk about anything to do with trade periods and stuff like that, or just talk football in general, feel free to go down in the description and follow my Instagram, Twitter and TikTok, where I all post stuff on there all the time. And make sure to subscribe, because we are trying to get to 1,000 before the end of the year, which we're actually so close. I think we're 5 subscribers or 5 or 6 subscribers away from 800. So if you're new here, please subscribe, and without further ado, let's get into it. So far, coming up to the trade period, there's been a lot of rumours and a lot of confirmed trade requests that look almost certain that they absolutely will get done. There's no situations like the Jeremy Cameron deal where they've been holding off and they want more and more. And so this is some of the trades. So Jordan Clark, Nat Fyfe recently also said on the radio that he's heard from Fremantle people around him that Jordan Clark will get to the club. Jordan Clark is from WA. You do expect Fremantle to get Jordan Clark, which would be a great replacement for Adam Cerra. And speaking of Adam Cerra yesterday did request a trade to Carlton, and it looks almost certain that Pick 6 will get involved, and it could almost be a 3-team trade with another guy that is planning to leave Carlton in SPS that has requested a trade to the Eagles. You expect that could be a 3-team trade that send Pick 27 from the Eagles to Carlton. Carlton give Adam Cerra, and Fremantle give Pick 6, and that kind of works like that. There's, obviously there'll be some other elements in that deal, but that's kind of the baseline of that deal. We'll get Adam Cerra to Carlton. Fremantle receive Pick 6, and also that SPS does get to the Eagles, which would be great for all parties in that situation. Next deal, which is actually from free agency, which is Chol, who will sign, I think, a 4-year deal with the Suns, which is really good. He could pair up with a possible Ben King if he does end up staying, because there's a lot of rumours now that he will leave. But even if Ben King does leave, you still get to have Marv Chol. They could pair up with possibly a Sam Day or someone else that they do get out of the draft, which at least they still have a key forward prospect. And speaking of a key forward prospect, Coleman Jones from Richmond, they're promising guy, and it almost seemed like a few weeks ago that they were going to have to choose from either Marbial Chol or Coleman Jones. But now, sadly, it looks like for Richmond that they're going to lose both of them, because it's almost certain that Coleman Jones will head to the Roos. His management has come out and said that he is actually interested in heading to the Roos. He'll be pairing up with Nick Larkey, and because they've really lacked a key forward apart from Nick Larkey this year. They had Cam Zurhaar playing as above his size, because Cam Zurhaar is actually not that tall, so he can't really play as a key forward. So him, and he also can develop into a ruckman if that's what they choose to do with him, because he was drafted as a ruckman but has looked absolutely brilliant as a key forward. But Todd Goldson can help him develop. And the next one is Pat Lipinski to the Pies. He did request a trade to the Pies last night or the night before, which you expected to get done. There was rumours that he was going to Carlton, but after Carlton did get Cerra, and now the next guy I'm about to talk about, that it kind of took him off the table. And the guy I'm talking about is George Hewitt, a big body midfielder, which can help out Cripps and Walsh in that midfield group. And now adding Cerra, that makes their Carlton midfield look very, very dangerous, and something that would look keen to see. And then next, another veteran fullback in Robbie Tarrant has actually chose to play for the Tigers next year. They did just lose David Asprey, and that would have left Noah Bolter, who possibly could miss a fair portion of next year, depending on how bad his knee injury is. They have Robbie Tarrant, they could fill in the role there, which could fill the hole of David Asprey and possible Noah Bolter. And now Jordan Dawson, who has requested a trade to the Crows, came out that he was willing to request a trade to a South Australian team, and he ended up choosing the Crows. I'm guessing, guaranteed opportunity, you can build with the list. He fits their age profile, very, very good. Trade request. I think he is a trade. I don't think he's a free agent, and I'm not sure what they'll have to give up for him. And then an actual free agent is Jake Kelly from the Crows, who's about 26 years old, a lockdown defender who plays on smalls. Good help because they actually got tear apart last year by small forwards, Essendon, because they didn't really have a guy that played it. Like Mason Redman kind of had to play that role, and they had their half-backs, like Nick Hind, who couldn't really play on a guy. He's more of that Caleb Daniel type who only really plays offense. And the last certain deal, which has got confirmed today, which was that Tom Lynch from Adelaide will be heading to Roos on a developmental coaching contract, which could see him play games too. So he is a player coach, so you expect him to kind of play kind of like a Luke Hodge role possibility. But I don't think he'll play every game if he doesn't need to. But if some injuries do happen to guys like maybe the Coleman Joneses and Zakarakis of the world, that they'll bring him in to actually play games. Now it's time for the trade rumours, and these are, players that have been linked to clubs, but, there's no certainty that, they actually will go to the club. But they're just, some rumours, and the first one we'll talk about is Daniel Italia to the Cats. Now, this is one of them that looks very, very likely, and I almost did put it on the done deals category. I think he did do a meeting with them, or that could have been another player, but I think there is some contact with them. And earlier today, Lockie Henderson did retire, and I don't think it was one of these retirements that, he just said, I don't want to play anymore, because he was actually playing some pretty good football, but I think it's one of the ones where he probably got told he was not going to be getting a contract next year, and he really, is their main fullback this season. So you just have to think, they're not going to play Mark Blizzards as a lockdown defender all year. They're going to have to want Daniel Italia, who is a pure lockdown defender. So you expect him to get to the Cats in almost a done deal, you would have to think. Next one came out yesterday or the day before, and it was Benelong to the Dons. And this is the third or fourth year, I think, they've actually tried to target Benelong in a trade period. And it's just a bit confusing. He's not the greatest footballer. He's shown signs of what he can do. He's pretty aggressive. He has some alright skills, but you don't really expect this to get done. The Saints are pretty confident that they would give him up, but they would want some significant stuff back. So you're thinking probably a late first rounder, or an early second round is probably what they're going to be asking for. He is a young, showing some great signs, did play really well in their finals push in 2020. So you'll probably think that that's what you have to give up to, want to get him out of St Kilda. It's not going to be a Nick Hind situation like last year where he literally the Saints just let him go for nothing. The next one is Timo Broy, and now it seems like they aren't really confident on this Todd Marshall pairing with Charlie Dixon. Obviously they do have Mitch Georgiadis, but it seems like with Peter Laddams most likely leaving the club at the end of the year in this trade period, that they usually run Peter Laddams and then another key forward, and then they've even at times run to Charlie Dixon, Todd Marshall, Mitch Georgiadis, Peter Laddams with Scott Lycett pairing. So you could kind of think that they want to pair someone off because they don't really want to trust Todd Marshall, because at times he did look really no good, and he could use someone like a Jeremy Finlayson, who also has been linked to the Power, and now Tim O'Brien has been linked to the Power. So it seems like they are looking for another key forward that could come in and help, instead of relying on someone like a Todd Marshall to pair with Mitch Georgiadis and Charlie Dixon. Next guy is a young developing swingman in Nathan Kruger, who's been linked to the Pies. He was linked slightly to the Saints, but you kind of don't see that being a case. You think it's most likely going to be Nathan Kruger to the Pies, and I personally do see this one happening. It seems like there's a fair chance that this will get done. The Pies have been looking, for a key forward prospect for a while, and he has, played both ends. He has played key forward and a key defence role at Geelong, and you probably think that he could come in and play some significant time as a key forward for the Pies. Next one is Ben King to the Saints. Now, Lloydie did come out and say that clubs in Melbourne and Saints do believe that Ben King will get to the Saints next year, because that is when he's a free agent. But then there was talks about, well, if Suns know that Ben King will not, sign on next year and he will leave and go to the Saints, then why don't they force a trade this year? Because then they'll get more back. Because you expect next year that they'll probably get a first round conversation, which, like, say if they finish fifth last next year and they get the 5th pick, that does mean they'll get the 5th and the 6th pick next year when Ben King does leave, if he does leave. But this year they could force multiple first round picks out of the Saints. They could force their pick 9 and then possible other picks out if that's what they're willing to do, and possibly even a player, if someone like Seb Ross, who seems to be in the crossroads with St Kilda right now, does want to get up there. So it's really weird of what the Suns want to go here, and we'll find out in this trade period on Monday of what they actually want to do with that situation. Next one is Mason Cox to the Lions. You expect with Eric Hipwood probably missing a majority, of not all, of next year, that they kind of do want someone to pair with, Joe Danaher for the short term. Daniel McStay, even though he was all right at the back half of the net last year, you kind of think that he's probably a third tall. You want, Joe, someone else, and then Daniel McStay is that third guy. And another guy who has been thrown up is Levi Casbolt to play in that role. So they're both, ruck forwards that can help out, create a contest and all that stuff, and let Joe kind of, do his thing and play up the ground or deep, depending on how they want to play it. So you kind of think that they won't get both Levi Casbolt and Mason Cox. So I'll have to pick one, and it's just what one do I think will be fit more. Personally, I just love watching Mason Cox sometimes, even though, he's pretty hated on these days for some reason. I don't want to see the big American leave the game. It helps the game out more than people know that having a big American play. So I'd love to see Mason Cox get to the Lions. Next one is Tom McCleary to the Saints. Saints have been, exposed at times during the past couple of years in their key defense department. Even though, their defense is starting to settle a lot, and they did have a really great back half with their defense, you kind of think if they did have someone like a Tom Cleary, who's about 25, 26 years old, they can play a lockdown role on, a guy, and let Dougal Howard and, Tom Highmore and all that stuff play that intercepting style, that could be a good get for the Saints. But this one's probably 50-50 up in the air. But Tom Cleary does look a bit out of favour, at the power, which is kind of a bit confusing, because they're kind of a bit light in their key defence department after letting go Dougal Howard a couple of years ago. Next one is Peter Laddams, who seems almost certainly that he will leave the power. Want to get some picks back. It seems like they do want to go back to the draft, and they do want to probably a late first round to early second round pick for this guy. And you kind of see why. He's shown some really great, sights that he can play a ruck position and a key forward position, is depending on what clubs want to do with him. So the teams that have been linked to him is the Dogs, Cats, and the Saints. At least that's what I've seen. There could be more teams, but kind of seems up in the air where Peter Laddams, but he will probably go, and just where will he end up in his career. Next one is Hamish Hartlett, who did get delisted and by the Power, even though he did play a lot of games over the past 2 years and was important for their team in 2020. But it does seem that the Suns could be interested in bringing him out to bring in some veteran, speak to their locker room and stuff like that. So expect Hamish Hartlett to be going to the Suns. If not, he'll probably just have to retire, which is pretty sad to see a guy like that end his career like that. Next guy is Luke Dunstan, who seems like the Suns, Essendon, and Carlton are probably the 3 teams that he could land at. You don't see him being able to go back to St Kilda after they seem to have not the greatest relationship, so you expect him to go over to those 3 teams. The last one is a guy kind of like Luke Dunstan, similar players but a lot younger, in Will Brody, who seems to be on the Dons' radar, and possibly I've heard the Crows get thrown up also in that. He was a top 10 pick. He had, he almost seemed like a bit of a Luke Davies-Uniacke type mould when he did get drafted, but just hasn't been able to get games together. He's looked good when he's played. It seems to be a bit out of the favour with the Suns, which is not good to see. The last one is players without a home, and these are players that are free agents or possible guys that have announced their retirement from AFL that, could make a comeback. And these players that I've kind of put in a group is Basher Hooley. Now, people are saying, oh no, he just retired in his own way. But a week before he did retire, he did say he wanted to continue playing football next year. And it came out that he actually got forced to retire by Richmond, which is a bit of a strange choice. But, they do have a lot of great young halfbacks that they probably do want to start develop. And they probably do know that they kind of are, getting out of their premiership window. So it's time to start developing some of the young halfbacks. So he could go. He has not been linked to any clubs yet, but you never know what could happen. Next one is David Zakarakis. As soon as he got delisted from Essendon, it did come out that he did want to continue playing football next year, but then he never really got any clubs interested so fast. But he's a wing, half forward, half back. A team like the Suns, you could see possibly picking him up for some development, or even the Roos. Even though they did pick up Tom Lynch kind of to do that role, but we'll have to wait and see. Next one is Aaron Vanderberg, who yesterday did come out and say that he has requested his release from Melbourne because he wants to, get some more opportunities elsewhere. But there's been no clubs that have really, come out and be interested in Aaron Vanderberg unless he knows something that we don't. But I guess it will come out later on his free agency period. Next one is Seb Ross. He does have a 2-year deal on the offer by St Kilda. But he did stay at he did come out and want to, possibly see what his interest is elsewhere and looking more to leave than he was to stay. But then, he's put his name on the market and no one's really, had a bite at it yet. So you expect him to probably stay at St Kilda. But if a club comes wanting with about a 3-year deal, you'd probably expect him to take it. Next one is Trent Thurmond, a reliable wingman, still uncontracted by the Roos. Did want to, flex his free agency this year, but no teams have really come biting. There was rumours that Essendon were kind of floating around to possibly get him, but no real hard evidence on that yet. The next one is Rhys Conker, who's played a lot of games for Fremantle over the past 3 years he's been there, but then got told he wasn't getting a contract. I obviously see some younger halfbacks, and they don't want, I think he's about 28, maybe 27. I think he's in the late 20s. And yeah, so he has got no names calling for him yet, but we'll have to wait and see. Next one is Joe Cameron, who did release some time away from West Coast and did want to, place elsewhere. But there's been, no clubs calling for him so far. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But it did come out today that he could be looking for possibly, having a couple years of football and then returning, in a couple of years after his mental and body is right. But we'll have to wait and see on that. He was really exciting when he did play. And the last one is Braden Sire, who's been yet to get a contract from Collingwood, but he was really good in the 2018 team where he did play a lot of football in their premiership push, where they ended up not getting the premiership. But obviously, he was pretty good in that year. He's still fairly young, about mid-20s, and he could, come into a team. He's a big-body midfielder, so you expect him to be, in the market for people that are wanting, Will Brody and Luke Dunstan, because you're around that mould. So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to drop a like on this video if you did enjoy, and thanks for watching.